when we said we would get started. So hi, I'm Abby Love. I work on the Scale Award, and I'm with a great team of facilitators and support team to put on the Seeds Learning Group. We are very excited that you're here. We have such a diverse group of people and really excited to get started. So before we dive into the technical content for the day, we wanted to give you a bit of an overview of what you see on your screen today. So as we were just typing in the chat box, feel free to introduce yourselves, your name, organization, the country you work in or support. And also use the chat throughout the session to ask questions, to share your experiences. We really want to hear from you throughout the Seeds Learning Group. We ask that you stay muted if you aren't speaking, but we really do hope this is interactive and that when we ask questions or have breakout groups, that you feel free to unmute and share your experiences with your colleagues. If your internet supports it and you feel comfortable, feel free to use your camera. And then as you just heard, the session is being recorded so that we are able to share it out after the session. So just so you know where you are in your Zoom screen, at the bottom left, you should see a little microphone that allows you to mute and unmute. Also your video, which allows you to turn that off and on, the chat box, and then you'll see a reactions button that allows you to put a thumbs up, a smiley face, a green check, or an X. Can I have everyone just take a second and give me a thumbs up with their reactions to make sure that we all know how to use that? I see one from Jan, Luis, Zoe, Felix. Great, now we're starting to find it. We'll use that throughout the sessions just to be able to gut check that we're all together. So please feel free to use it also to raise your hand. You'll see the icon that allows you to raise and lower your hand. And then at the top of your screen, you see a little view button that allows you to change the view if you only want to see the presentation and the speaker, or if you want to see all the participants that are part of the group. And then at the very top of your screen, you should be able to minimize your Zoom screen. We will be using Google Docs occasionally throughout the session, which I'll explain in just a moment. But the minimize function will allow you to go in and out of Zoom, basically, so that you can go to the Google Doc and come back. And Ashton Bitton and myself, we are available for any technical support or questions that you may have throughout the session. Next slide, Ashton. So for the Google Doc, which we'll post in the chat box in just a second, this is where we'll do some of our activities. So the introductory activity that I asked you to do, we'll be using the Google Doc to interact with that in just a few minutes to get to know each other. But in the Google Doc, there's a way that you can jump throughout it so that you don't have to scroll page by page if we're moving on to a new activity. So there's two ways to do that. One is the table of contents, which you'll see on the first page of the document. If you click on that, you'll be able to jump in the document to which activity we're on. And then there's also a little icon on the left-hand side that has 3 lines. You can also click that, and it will allow you to navigate throughout the page as well. We did want to call your attention to, in the Google Doc, there are sections at the bottom for questions, parking lot, and recommendations. And we ask that you use this throughout the session. If you have questions that may not be relevant for that particular moment, but you don't want to lose them or forget them, feel free to write them in that Google Doc. Or if things are a little out of scope, but it's a question you have on your mind or a comment or something you want to share. And then throughout the learning group over the next 4 weeks, we'll also be making a list of recommendations that both Scale can take forward, potentially for future work, but then also for potentially USAID if they are interested in recommendations that come out of this as well. So, like I said, please feel free to ask Ashton or I questions at any time. Ashton, go ahead and put the Google Doc in the chat box, and people can have it up so that you can make sure you have access. And we'll be using it throughout the session. All right, and it looks like I just had forgotten to give everyone access, but now I did. So hopefully now you can all get on it. All right, so we won't be using it just yet, but we will in just a moment. So go ahead to the next slide, Ashton. We want to give brief introductions of who's going to help facilitate the sessions over the next 4 weeks. So as I said, my name is Abby Love. I work for Mercy Corps as a part of the SCALE Award, but also part of my time on the ISSD Africa, or Integrated Seed Sector Development in Africa. And with that, I will pass it to Louise.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Louise Sperling, and I manage a website called Seed System. I hope you're all joiners on it. I work on seed systems, both emergency and development, about 30 countries in Africa, but also places like Haiti, Syria, Timor-Leste. And I'm thrilled by the diversity of participants. Welcome. Wilfred, yeah.
Thanks a lot, Luis. And my name is Wilfred Oko, and I'm the program advisor for Mercy Corps, sharing my time between SCALE and ISSD Africa. And I'm glad to be part of this team as well. I'll pass it on to Ashton.
Thanks, Wilfred. Yep, my name is Ashton Bitten. I am on the SCALE Award at Mercy Corps, supporting logistics for the Seeds Learning Group. I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, everyone. Next slide, Ashton. So just so you know where we're headed today, the first bit of the session will focus on the background to the group, kind of how this came to be, and our aims for the group, and set some ground rules together as a collective. And then we'll get into our technical discussion today, which will focus on seed system fundamentals. Then we'll have a summary and an after session task that we go over. But before we get into all of that, wanted to do some participant introductions, or for you to get to interact with each other a little bit. So in the Google Doc that Ashton put in the chat box a minute ago, and we can post in there again, what we're going to ask you to do is go to activity 1, which starts on page 2, and to read through some of the big questions that your colleagues wrote when they did their introductory activity. So for example, we have a mentee who asked, does the seed system assessment include import seeds or locally produced ones only? What we want you to do is read through, and then you see on the right-hand side, there are 2 columns for this is a priority or this is not a priority. And we want you to take a moment to reflect on, for your experience, your context that you're working in, is this question or, is this a priority for your work or is it not? And just put an X, a little X next to this is a priority or this is not. And then you'll see multiple X's will be coming up in some boxes, and that's what we want to see. Are there certain questions or areas that are of interest to the group, are really important to this group? And then are there some others that it may be less of a priority for now, but we may be able to touch on in the future? Does anyone have questions about the activity before I let you go into the document for a few minutes and read? Feel free to unmute and ask the question or use the chat box. All right, well, I'll take your silence as everyone understands the instructions. So take a minute to scroll through in the Google Doc, starting on page 2 onwards, some of those big questions, and then put X's as to whether this is also a priority for you or not right now. And I'll bring us all back together in about 5 minutes. take about 1 more minute and then we'll come back together. All right, so thank you so much for taking a moment to look through those. It's really interesting to see both the spread of questions and interests that you all have, and then the support from your colleagues that a lot of these are also really relevant to them. So for example, Zoe had the question of what are the steps to take into account when conducting an SSSA? And many other colleagues or participants of this group also found that as a priority or a question of interest. There's also from Felix the question of how to adapt the SSA to local contexts. Or from Sadhu, how effectively can SSSAs strengthen local seed system markets? And there are many. It's really great to see that, there are questions not only about seed systems assessments, but also about emergencies or fragile contexts, as well as non-emergency or development areas, some about the process, improved varieties, local seed systems. It's really spanning quite a broad range. And that gets us really excited because it means that you're in the right group. We're excited to dive into the content of the group, which will focus on kind of the basics of seed systems, but also get into seed system security assessments or seed system assessments. So I wanted to give a chance for Luis or Wilfred. Is there anything that you noticed as you were scrolling through looking at these questions or things that stood out to you?
So this is Louise speaking. Simply that this group has tremendous seed system expertise, and I mean that. There are people who focus on the local system, others who are looking at the formal system. Some of you are specifically interested in resilience, so there are different goals. Some of the questions are general, for instance, how do you do a seed system assessment, but some specific, how do you get improved seeds monitored? All important. There was nothing irrelevant. I don't mean to say that, but it's impressive. Thanks. That's it.
Yeah, thanks, Luis. And I guess I would point to one thing that struck me is the question on coordination. And I think this strikes me because I've had discussions with the partners, and something that came out so strongly is the challenge of coordinating standard SSSA. And I think it came out also during the consultations. And I think this is something we really have to deal with, whether it's through this forum or perhaps figuring out with partners how coordination can be made more effective. Thanks.
Great. And Wilfred, I think that's a great segue into you talking a little bit about the history of the group and how we came to be. But thanks everyone for your participation. We're excited to get to know you and your experience a bit more. Wilfred, over to you.
Great. Thanks, Abby, and thanks everyone for taking part in that important section. And now that we have a sense of who is in the room, I'd like to take us through how we got here. Next slide, please. So as some of you might be aware, of course, in March 2021, the BHA-funded SCALE is Strengthening Capacity in Agriculture, Livelihoods, and Environment, hosted 2 consultations on seed systems assessments. And of course, the consultations were with both the technical advisors at the headquarters and also with program implementers. And both consultations were informed by the need to understand the variation in uptake and usage of SSSS or seed systems assessments across BHA-funded programs. Next slide, please. And so out of these consultations, there were some key findings that included failure by programs to include elements of seed systems assessment in applications, but it was also found that many implementers do not access the seed systems assessments reports, even though they are available online. For instance, in the seedsystem.org, we have all those reports done globally, and also in the FAO site, which we'll be able to show later. But further, of course, some implementers admitted having limited expertise, of course, within their organizations to understand the seed systems assessment tools and resources. And of course, there's general lack of awareness about seed system assessment tools, resources, and this was cited as, of course, a major drawback. Next slide, please. And so out of these consultations, we came up with a few key recommendations. And of course, in this forum, I will highlight just 2 of those key recommendations. And this had to do with supporting more socialization on information and resources. And of course, this is through trainings, but also providing some light touch support, of course, to help partners be able to access these tools, to navigate the sites, and be able to sort of access the reports of the seed systems assessments, and even the learning course that is available on the seed system site. But also we intended, or we thought it to be necessary to clarify some of the BHA guidelines and expectations for assessments in ongoing programs, particularly the emergency programs. And so out of this, then the SEEDS learning group was born. And I think I will pause there if there are any questions around the background to the SEEDS learning group before we proceed. If you have any burning question to or clarification that you want to seek, please go ahead. I suppose there are no questions, but if there are questions, of course, you're free to sort of throw them in the chat area. And so I will move to the next slide, which is about the aims of this learning group. And of course, based on the consultations and the recommendations, like I stated, we decided to put together a SEEDS learning group, which is sort of a short course in response, of course, to the findings. Next slide, please. So the aims or the objectives of the learning group, of course, one, we aim to introduce participants to the basic concepts of seed systems and seed system assessments, of course, including several types of seed systems assessments, and also to help partners to have access, be able to navigate and use existing seed system assessment tools, trainings, and all, of course, other resources, including seed system security assessment tools, but also to help clarify to what extent, of course, partners can modify existing tools while also upholding the minimum technical standards required for seed systems assessments, but also to support partners to familiarize themselves with existing assessments globally, and of course, any relevant secondary seed system research and studies. Next slide, please. And so, looking at the SEEDS learning group, and of course, out of the expression of interest that you did, we were able to synthesize some of your expectations. And we are happy that most of you are interested in learning about both general seed systems and seed system assessment tools. And that's really great. And of course, we got this information from 17 people who are writing this course. And most of you selected both seed system assessments and general seed systems, but of course, some put one or the other. And in the next slide, we'll be reflecting the other points. And so let's move to the next slide. So I know we may not get to all these, but we hope to touch on them in some way throughout the course. And we have sort of grouped these in topics that are of interest and basically relevant and within the scope of this learning group, but may not be extensively sort of dealt with. But then we thought there are a few that might be out of scope, but we might sort of be able to link you to any resources as we may be able to those topics that we think are out of scope. And so if you allow me to proceed to the next slide, I will take us through how we are going to move throughout this learning group to make sure that we meet our objectives. Of course, starting today with the first session on understanding seed systems. Of course, this is basically the understanding of our learning journey for now, but just a caution that this might change based on your needs and evolution of the course. And also please note that we want to move at your speed. So if you want us to go faster than the speed you are moving, we are happy to do so. If you want us to be slower, of course, we'll be happy to do so. Next slide, please. So I will run us through some of the ground rules that will help us to run the sessions more smoothly and collaboratively. And of course, essentially, we expect very lively and honest interactions. We want to be as practical as possible. We expect all to attend all sessions, and of course, do your best to have a good internet. And we'll be providing modest home exercises. Of course, this should be fun, and we expect that you'll be able to find time to sort of go through them, and also just to help to cement understanding of the concepts that will be learned through the sessions. And of course, to reduce distractions, we request that if possible, you can close email and do just whatever you can within your ability to make sure your attention is fully here. And be free to share your experiences. We are happy to learn, and this is perhaps a platform for co-learning, and make sure your voice is heard. Make sure you're able to speak up, and make sure you're able to make your point known. And I would like to hear from you if there are any other things that you think can help us to run these sessions more smoothly. So I think over to you all. If you have anything that you think we need to add to this list, please go ahead and just raise your hand and let us know what you think. But you can also type those in the chat area as we proceed. Then we'll keep updating whatever needs to be added to that section. Yes, Luis, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to note that looking at the list of participants, we work in so many different countries, whether it's Somalia, DRC, Asia, globally. So please share experiences, your real field experiences. And that way we can strengthen the way we do SSAs. Thanks very much.
Yes, Kajin, go ahead. Great. So I think with that, I'll hand it to Luis to start us off with the technical content. And over to you, Luis.
Yes, hello everyone. So this session today, as Wilfred mentioned, is about the fundamentals of seed systems. We want to make sure that we share the same understanding, or if we don't, that we understand why we might have differences. Next. So what are we going to do today? Look at 4 very big issues, and these are issues that affect how you do emergency work, how you development work, how we implement. So the issues we're going to look at, so you know, what is seed? What is the seed security framework? How do we use it? Seed systems basics, you know, what types of seed systems are there? What are their characteristics? And then the goals of seed aid work. Seed aid can have very diverse goals. Okay, next. So let's start with something fun, a bit provoking. We're going to do a small exploration of what is seed. Next, Ashton, thank you. So just take out a piece of paper, and this is just for your own use, it's no reporting. And you're going to see 8 images. Pretty quickly, I'll just go through. And you decide to yourself, is this seed yes? Is this seed no? And why? So after we do this individual reflection, we're going to come back as a group and then talk about your answers and debate and discuss. So there'll be 2 rounds. First is for you, and then the second is for us as a group, because we are a group.
Hey, Louise, just to note, there is a comment in the box about your voice going in and out a bit. So if you can just make sure you're speaking into your microphone.
Okay, is this better?
Try now, Louise. I think you were getting there.
Is this better?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Thanks.
Let me put it up again, and thank you, because you're right. Is this better?
Cool. Yeah, that is loud and clear.
Okay, thanks for alerting me. Okay, next slide. Okay, look at the image. Is this seed? Don't say anything. You write it You write it. Is this seed? Okay, next. This is number 2. Is this seed? And why? Reflect why. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Louise.
Great. Okay, number 3. Is this seed? Yes, no, why? Great. Number 4. All really different images. Is this seed? Okay, number 5. Look closely. Is this seed? So I see a no in the chat. Oh, someone wrote no to seed. Okay. Just right now, just look at it, record to yourself. Is this seed? Okay, we're already at 6. Is this seed? Look at all the clues all around. Okay, number 7. Is this seed? Okay, and the last, number 8. Look at the image. Is this seed? Okay, so we went fairly quickly through 8 different images. Did everyone have enough time? Okay, let's go back. I don't see it. Let's go back to number 1. And now we're going to actually discuss it. So who would like to comment? Unmute your microphone. Is this seed? Yes, no, and why? Should you raise your hand? Is that the best way to do it, or whatever you would like? Who would like to comment? Okay, I think it's Joanne. Is this seed?
Yes, it's Joanne. Yes, I'd say it's seeds for me, because you can see that it's an agro dealer with various products, including seeds. So I would hope that they can also provide seeds with advice and counsel on which ones to choose, and how to do also other things in the farm.
Great. I see someone wants to say something else? Is it Abdikani?
Yeah, I would like to add something else. Yeah, you can see clearly the vegetable seed in the back of this lady. But also you can see that there is a veterinary product in this agro dealers.
Sorry, that there is a what?
I said that there is a vegetable seeds.
Yes.
There is a vegetable seeds at the back of this lady, and at the same time there is a veterinary product. So you can say that there is a seeds in this agro dealer.
Great, so there were clear signals. Okay, next. Is this seed? Who wants to venture and raise a hand? Okay, Zoe. Or Alex,
Yeah.
whoever. No, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Alex. I said yes, no. So for yes, it's because I can see the seed is labeled SEDCO SC513. It's in the seed packet. But for no, I'm not sure whether some maize has been colored green and put in a packaging with seed. So in that case, if that is the case, then it's not seed; it's only maize colored put in a packet for seed. So my answer was yes or no. Thank you.
Oh, interesting. So who wants to comment on the dye? So it is SeedCo, a well-known company in Africa. Who wants to comment on the dye?
I'd say it's a treatment for the seeds to ensure that they're not attacked by pests. Well, I would think that's the reason that they're dyed.
No, excellent. And also it's often treated to make sure people don't eat the seed, that they know it's seed. And this is a very common signal, particularly in East and Southern Africa, maybe other parts of the world. Next. So these were two easy examples, too easy for you. Is this seed? Is there a raised hand? Let's see, someone who hasn't spoken before. Joseph.
Yes, thank you. This is Lem Joseph from South Sudan. Yes, I can say this is seed and predominantly at the rural household. For example, in South Sudan, this is one of the commonest method that farmers use for seed storage. So I think and I can confirm that based on the context that I am in, these are seeds which are stored for the next season. Over.
Excellent eyes. This is a picture from South Sudan, and this is clearly farmer seed. Next. This is the hardest one. Is this seed? This is by far the hardest image.
Luis, I see Abdikani's hand.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Thanks for the help, Abdikani.
Yes, Luis, this is Abdikani from Somalia. And I can say this is not a real seed because it's not prepared for seed. Seed, we can say when it is a kind of seed that can be used quickly and ready for use to plant farm. But this is not. This can be food, and this is a multi-purpose maize. So we cannot say it is a seed. Thank you.
Okay, another opinion here. NRC, whoever that is. Okay, I'm going to help you out here because this is the hardest one. This is an image from Madagascar. And what it shows is maize seed sold in the market. And the reason you know it's seed is that it's been kept on the cob. It's been kept on the stem. And maize or corn, which is not on the stem, is for food. So this was really tricky, everybody. What it shows is that they're very local signs for seed. And you have to know these local signs. But if you're not from, Madagascar, you would not have known it. So this is kind of a trick. Okay, next. Any questions on that? At any point, unmute yourselves. Feel free. This is a discussion. Okay, so we're on slide number 5, and we see legumes here. Is this seed, and what are the signals? Abby, help me with the raised hands here.
Sure. How about Betty?
Yep, Betty. Yep. Thanks, Abby. Yeah.
Hello. Yes. Thank you very much. To me, this is not seed. Why? Because if you look at the physical purity is poor, and even if you look clearly, the quality is also poor, and then also there is no uniformity. So I think this is basically used for maybe for food and so forth, but it's not a seed. Thank you.
Okay, another of our group, another discussion. This is a discussion.
How about Sadhu?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's contrary to what my colleague said. For me, this is a seed. And when you look at the image at the right, so I can say that maybe they have started to do the processing and also removing all the impurity that you can see at your left side. So the broken grain and other impurity has been gathered at the left side, and the one that can be sown at the right side. So, and also you can see also at the left side, we still have some grain in some specific plastic container. So for me, yeah, this might be some type of seed that it depends on the way at the rural level. You can see there are different methods and way of processing, but not all seed are very 100% pure. And yeah.
Okay, someone else? Yep, two diverse opinions. Someone else?
Let me compliment my last speaker. This is Brahan. Even I'm challenging like even the previous categorization, just until we reach to one consensus on the seed or quality seed. How can we decide only by observing seed? Because the majority of our community of farmers can pick seed locally from the market. They can do small cleaning or sorting, then they can plant. So I'm thinking or supporting the other speaker. This is seed, but its germination or its quality will be decided later. But at this level, someone can use as seed material. Over to you.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. You see the diverse opinions. And we're going to have that in this co-learning. This, for farmers, this is local seed, and you can see that the chaff, the dirt, the stones, the dust have been sorted out to the left. However, as another colleague said, Betty said, we're not sure totally of its quality and its purity, but for many farmers, this is what they buy as local seed. So we'll discuss who determines seed. It's not as clear cut as we think. Okay, we're almost finished. Next. Quick one. This one should be easy. Is this seed? Any, Abby, help me with the hands. Any hands here?
I would say yes, but at the same time, also it's sold as any other thing. Like it's just seed as something that people buy as a consumed product, not for me, not seed. Like the person doesn't even know if that's the kind of seed that would grow there, that is adapted to the climate or to the local context.
Yeah, great answer. So it looks like seed is packaged as seed. We don't know if it grows in the local context. It's also in the hot sun there. So we don't know if it will germinate, but it looks like seed, packaged seed. Okay, two more. Next. Is this seed? This is a picture from Timor-Leste. I don't see the hand, so why don't you help me, Abby? Ah, I see, Zoe.
Okay. Basically, seeds should be produced by seed multiplicator and have a certification. But as you see, you can see in this picture, it starts to sprouting. So informally, the production of seed is like that. Once it can sprout, you can use this one. So I will call it seeds, but in informal way of production.
Okay, know what that is? It's not sprouting, and it's because it's bruchets. It's been attacked by bruchets. You know the yeah.
Okay, yeah. This yeah.
So this is a trick. This is a trick to get us to really think. You know, I don't know if this is seed or not, or was, but we know that it's damaged, and no matter what, you can't use it as seed. Okay, the last. Is this seed? Alex, you there? Do you have a hand up raised?
Yes, it was raised. I wanted to comment on the previous picture, but the
sure,
last
of
speaker
course. Sure,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to say it's seed, yes, because it looks like I don't know what type of a fruit is, but I think from the succulent fruit there is seed within it. So, but again, the quality of the seed is likely to be very poor by merely looking at the picture. Yeah.
Exactly, very, very poor. Okay, and the last is a real trick question very quickly. I hope this made you smile. Is this seed? Oh, I don't see any hands up. Okay, so I'm going to tell you this is coffee beans. So this has nothing to do with seed. This is just coffee beans. Okay, let's get to the summary. So here are the answers if you guys want to go through them again. And actually, I hope if you guys train that you use some of these things to stimulate thinking. Okay, next. Basically, what this exercise was about was to have us really think about what is seed and what is not. Because donors are going to ask you, is that seed? Farmers are going to ask you, is that seed? How do you assess seed markets if you don't have a common understanding of what is really seed? And what we take away from our discussion, which was an excellent one, is that seed can be sourced from different places. But they're signals that help people determine if it can be planted. So from the formal sector side, there might be labels, there might be expiration dates, dyes, packaging. From the informal sector, you have to look at storage conditions, like on cobs and trees. Always important to visually inspect, and as Brahanu said, maybe to test. And remember that seed has to be the right crop, right varieties, healthy, no matter what, good germination. So that's where we are here. It's not easy to do a seed system assessment. You have to know what is seed. Okay, let's move on to the next session. I know that took longer. I hope that's okay. But I think this is a real thinking group. Wilfred, I give it over to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Luis. And I think we can move to the next slide. Thanks. And now that we have some background to seeds, and that is definition of seeds, let's turn to seed security framework. And essentially, this will just help us to jog our minds on how we know people are seed secure. So next slide, please. And I will give a standard definition of what it is to be for households to be seed secure. And this is when households have unfettered access to adequate quantities.
Hey, Ashton, yeah, go back to the definitions. Yep, exactly, thanks.
we are there, right? Good. So I was just saying, just to get a clear understanding of what seed security is before we get into the framework, I just wanted to mention that households are considered seed secure if they have unfettered access to adequate quantities of quality seed and planting materials of their preferred crops and varieties. And these have to be adapted to the local conditions. And I know many of you know this, and they must meet their socioeconomic and cultural needs. And of course, issues of tastes and preferences must be considered. And at planting time, the farmers need to have the seeds that they want and need. And this should be whether the conditions are normal or abnormal. Now, of course, with this understanding of seed security, we now look at seed security framework as, of course, being anchored on 4 key parameters. And of course, you can see what they are and the definitions. The parameters are availability, access, seed health, variety, stability. And of course, when we talk of seed health and variety stability, we are actually coining the seed quality parameter in a nutshell. And so seed essentially has to be available, and availability should be in terms of proximity, essentially being there close to the farmers, but then also in terms of the right time, being there at the right time. So the farmers should have the seed available within their proximity, but also at the right time when they need it. And also looking at access, the farmers should have the means to purchase the seed that they want and need, but they can also exchange this. In other words, they need to have like a means to barter, whether it is exchanging seed for other grains or seed for other foods or other household items, that needs to be there. And of course, this is in case they don't have their own stock. And this, of course, may include existence of effective social networks to help the farmers to get seeds, for instance, like in the form of gifts. But also, seed must be able to meet the physical, physiological, and phytosanitary requirements. And of course, this wrapped together have to do with the seed quality. And then we need to have the right variety. And this right variety must be adapted to local conditions. And I think that was mentioned by one of the participants as we were looking at the seeds definition, which is a key thing. The varieties must be adapted to local conditions, but also socially, economically, and culturally acceptable. And to a great extent, because agriculture is being commercialized, we need to think about varieties that also meet the market needs. And I think broader view of course, those that meet the nutritional needs as well. And with that, I would like to pause for any questions with regards to the definition of seed security framework and the parameters. If there are any questions, of course, please feel free to raise up your hand and let us know.
Wilfred, there's
Great.
a question from Berhanu in the chat box about reasonable proximity could be defined to be understood by all, or can we leave it open? Like in less than 5 kilometers or 1 hour walking distance? Is it just kind of left open to interpretation?
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And I will talk a bit about it, but then I will also ask Liz to come in that and sort of give her thoughts. Proximity is basically when you do like seed systems assessment, you want to map the distance from the households to the nearest market where they can get their seeds from. And so if a farmer can get the seeds from a walking distance, I think that is the most sort of, I would say, the most convenient point of sale that would then measure the availability of seed within the proximity of the household, in which case you will have eliminated the additional costs that the farmer would have to incur if they were to then pay sort of a transport cost to the nearest point of sale. Then that would then add to the cost of the seed. And that's what we really want to eliminate, because down there we come to the issue of economic access, and we want the farmer to get the seeds as close as possible and at the most affordable cost. And if that cost can be arrived at by eliminating the cost of transportation, that will be great. Luis, do you want to say something on that?
Yeah, just a great question. That reasonable proximity, often says what you said, Wilfred, walking distance, but that could be different in a war zone. Someone mentioned fragile contexts. I think it was John. So reasonable proximity in a war zone is different from reasonable proximity in a stable state. So you have to interpret these very closely to your local context. Thanks.
Good.
Wilfred, I see Elaine's hand is raised.
Yes.
Right,
sometimes farmers' preference can be focalized on the consumption, the taste. We can have very good parameter, availability, access, the quality, but sometimes their preference can be focalized only on the consumption, the taste of the production based on improved seeds. How can we manage this aspect?
Thanks, Aki. Luis, did you get that question clearly?
Yeah, very, very, very clear, Aki. So you're absolutely right. So farmers' preferences, the last, variety suitability. Farmers' preferences would include cooking, consumption, marketing, whatever the different features are that farmers prefer. So don't forget about taste. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Aki, and thanks, Luis, for responding to that. And so we want to move on. I don't know if there's any additional question. If there isn't, then please let's move on. And of course, having learned about the seed security framework, and I like the kind of questions that came up and its parameters, we want to now look at a few examples of scenarios that can help us identify the seed security problem we might be faced with. And of course, we'll do this in a fun way. And basically, we are crafting this as an exercise to help us test our understanding. And we are going to, in a short while, break into 4 groups. And please note that you'll get a pop-up message to prompt you to join a group you have been assigned to. And once you are in your group, we request that you nominate one facilitator and one note taker, because we'll have to sort of give some short feedback. And we are going to discuss 5 scenarios of seed security. And within our groups, we will decide which seed security problem the scenario is referring to. So we have a total of 5 scenarios. We are going to, in our groups, discuss those, look at them critically, and decide within the groups what the seed security problem is. Remember, there are 4 different parameters of seed security framework, which are also the seed security problems. And these are availability, access, seed health related to quality, variety stability related to quality. So we are going to map those to the 5 scenarios and say, for this scenario, this could be the problem. For this scenario, this could be the problem. Next slide, please. So I want us to just go through 1 or 2 examples of these 5 scenarios, and I will just read through 1 or 2, and then after that, we will break into our groups with the instructions. And if there are questions, of course, please feel free to raise if the instructions are not clear. So the first scenario is the household does not have sufficient common bean seed for the upcoming season and wants to acquire more from local markets. But now is also the time for school fees. The family has no extra seed money. So you'll discuss that and then decide within your group what is the seed security problem. Number 2, modern varieties of sorghum have been distributed following a drought. While their heads or panicles are big, the stems are too short and not tasty for fodder. So the farmers here are also agro-pastoralists. So the question is, what is the seed security problem? So you'll discuss that within your groups and then decide what the seed security problem is. So unless there is any question regarding the instructions and the breakout groups, I will pass it to Abby or Ashton to move us to the groups. So let me mention that we have just 7 minutes to discuss, and then we'll be prompted to get back to the main meeting. Over to you, Abby, Ashton.
Yeah, Wilfred, everyone should have gotten a pop-up, so go ahead and join the group that you are assigned to. So Abdikani, Marvin, Steve, I see you have not moved to your group.
Oops, I think we got pushed out. Oh, there.
Yeah, Louise, we're all back in the main room now.
Just
Wilfred, back to you. Wilfred, we can't hear you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, sorry. So welcome back. And now we'd like to consider each of the 5 scenarios. And I know you had quite interesting engagement within your groups, like we had in ours. And I think I'll go straight to scenario 1, and I'll read it out and ask group 1 to respond. And let's see how it goes. So what is the seed security problem here? The household does not have sufficient common bean seed for the upcoming season and wants to acquire more from local markets. But now is also the time for school fees. The family has no extra seed money. Group 1, what is the problem here?
Access. No, sorry, availability.
So we are having access and also availability.
And for our group, access.
Yeah, great. So I think we have access, which is quite explicit. I just want to know if anybody thinks availability is also an issue here. No. So it is access because they don't have the money. Let's move to scenario number 2, and this will be answered by group number 2. And if anybody has any different opinion, we'll get to know from there. So what is the seed security problem here? Modern varieties of sorghum have been distributed following a drought. While their heads or panicles are big, the stems are too short and not tasty for fodder. The farmers here are agro-pastoralists. So group 2, what is the problem here?
It's a problem of variety, suitability, quality.
Any different opinion?
Wilfred, maybe Zoe, can
No.
you explain, Zoe, can you explain why you think that is?
Okay, go ahead. Why do you think it's variety stability?
Okay, so it is indicated in the sentence that the farmer here are agro-pastoralists. So the farmer are looking for a fodder more tasty, but the case with this modern variety is the contrary. They got the non-tasty variety.
Good, thanks. So we are going to the next scenario, number 3. Cassava mosaic disease has wiped out all healthy planting material, and there are no clean stems to plant, not anywhere in the region. Group 3, what is the problem here and why?
We have discussed between seed health and availability, because the unavailability of the healthy seeds. So it's one coming from the other.
Any other opinion? Great.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Sorry, could you go back a second?
Hello.
Yes.
I think there is somewhere also whereby we can look at the issue of access, because it's saying that there is no any other clean planting material anywhere in the region. So it is not accessible anymore.
What do others think?
Yeah. Go, sorry.
Okay, sorry. I think that it's not about access, because it is not indicated that the farmer in this region has no income, has no money to buy the cassava. But the problem is the thing that they can't find anywhere in the region the healthy cassava.
All right. Who else wants to say something?
Just one of the colleagues in our group did mention the issue regarding varietal suitability in the event that the availability question is addressed in clean stems or material that's identified as being resistant or tolerant to cassava mosaic disease. If indeed that material is identified and brought in, it's important that the variety itself would be a variety that is not susceptible to cassava mosaic, which would then, cover the varietal suitability piece.
Great, Steve. Luis, do you think we can sort of look at this in terms of short-term and long-term, having to introduce a new variety that is tolerant or resistant to CMD, but also addressing the immediate problem, which is clearly availability and seed health? Any thought on that, Luis?
Well, I think you should ask Steve. He's among us, the cassava expert. But what I think, and I will give this to Steve, but I think what this shows is that sometimes it's not only one problem, and it can be interpreted with 1, 2, or 3 seed security problems. And you have to think about how to balance them when you respond. Steve, do you want to?
Yeah, just specific to cassava, we know that farmers can, select clean planting material, or NGOs can train on selecting cleaner planting material. So just physically, if the material showed less cassava mosaic disease, that would be better than nothing. Like that would be okay. That would be an improvement. So yeah, I mean, the quality issue could be addressed simply through training and the promotion of, I guess we'd call it negative selection, or I'm not sure what we call it, if it's negative or positive, but we'd be identifying cassava planting material. We'd be selecting our planting material from cassava plants that show less cassava mosaic disease. And of course, cassava mosaic disease presents itself very clearly on the leaves. And so, that could be an effective, one effective way in the short term to help mitigate against the effects of cassava mosaic disease.
Great. Thanks a lot, Steve, for those very useful thoughts. Let's move to scenario number 4. And this will be answered by group 4. Farmers say that insects are attacking their cowpea in storage and recording losses of even 70%. And the grains that survive rarely emerge or sprout when planted. What is the seed security problem? Group number 4.
This was those of you in Luis's group.
We need Sadhu. Or
Yeah,
Andy.
thank you.
Andy
Yeah,
is-
thank you very much. So I was thinking that the person that took the note was going to respond. So from the group discussion, we highlight the main problem here is the seed health quality. Over to you. Is anyone to add something?
Great. Any different opinion? And what is the reason for your decision?
The reason for the decision is the seed that are kept, there is a loss, and also the remaining variety that the grain that remain do not sprout all. So when you, let us say the germination rate is very low. So if you put for 100 grain, it is only 30% germination rate. So it is more linked to quality and health.
Oh, great. Someone wanted to say something just quickly before we move to the final one.
I'm wondering if you can add the availability problem in this case. The thing is that we don't know if it's all in an area that all the farmers are known this kind of experience this losses of harvest. So I don't know. I'm wondering a bit about. You can also add the availability problem or not in this case.
Any thoughts from members on whether we can add availability? Go ahead, Osman.
Yeah, I think that's here the group did not highlight the problem of availability because the seed is available, but the problem is that during the storage there was infestation which reduced the seed germination viability. So yeah, I know that there might be a combination of problems, but for me, we are thinking that most importantly here, it is seed health quality. That the group, any member can add something?
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Let's move to the next scenario, and that's the.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Luis.
Yeah, so they're not clear cut. Going back to them, if you have a 70% loss, it could be an availability, but it depends how much seed farmers need. So I think this discussion, you're all right. You know, we have to, definitely it's health, but it could also be availability if they've lost enough. Yeah, just thinking.
Good. So let's move to the final one. And that is number 5. This is open to all groups. And very few in the village have even tried new varieties of maize, as there are no agro dealers anywhere in the province. These commercial sellers say the area is just too remote and transport too costly. What is the seed security problem? Open to all groups. Just feel free to raise up your hand and I will let you speak. Go ahead, Kagin.
It's availability. It's not available. There's no shops where people can find it.
Thanks a lot. I see Sadius.
Yeah, I
hope I read it correctly.
I have the same idea. So I think that most importantly here is about availability, because the seed variety is not within the community. The community is very in a very remote area, and also the transportation cost is more impeding the arrival of the seed to the community. But also we can see also the angle of accessibility. So although they know that the market where the seed is available is in a remote area, but the challenge here is the value added of the transportation cost. So for me, yeah, we can have the two problem of seed security together combined. That's what I'm thinking.
Great. So let's have Brahanu shortly and Marvin finally, then we move to the next thing. Just very quickly, Brahanu.
Just I'm going for both access and also suitability, because first sentence shows only few tried this variety maize and no even dealer. So I'm observing that like suitability issue, because it is not yet confirmed for suitability or adaptability. Then the second, the last sentence is about too remote in transport too costly means there is problem of access. So I'm combining access and suitability. Over to you.
Good. Thanks a lot. And we are very grateful that we've had that quite interesting discussion. And so in summary, you can see the responses that we have. And this, I think, is well corroborated by the decisions we made within the groups. So the first scenario, of course, had the access as a problem. Second one is variety stability. Third one is somewhere between availability and seed health. And fourth one, similar to that, availability and seed health. And then the fifth one is access and availability. I guess we can now move to the next slide very quickly. And here we just want to see if you have any other seed security problems you want to raise. And this should be pretty quickly. And just give examples of problems that you have faced within your organizations. I think just stating what the problems are very quickly in just under 1 minute, so that we move to the next section. So anybody has any additional problems, seed security problems that they have faced within their organizations, please just shoot up your hand and state that. And also feel free, if you are still thinking about that, you can also throw that in the chat area so that we are able to move. Sadius, quickly.
Sorry, thank you very much. I think that as an organization, most importantly, when you look where ISA is working in the West Africa, we are working with displaced people and also people that have been shocked by climate change. So there is a drought, they were not able to produce. I know that the production quantity might not be also directly linked to feed. The most pressing need is the availability of seed that we are coming across in the communities that we are working with. And also in most stable communities that are under chronic climate change shock, most problems that we are coming across is the seed quality and also the seed sustainability, because most of the seed at times that have been provided are not adapted to the context, or maybe it does not give satisfaction to the farmer, either in terms of the physical panicle that will be produced if it is millet, and also it can also be the duration of the seed that will be produced. So in such a way that farmers are not satisfied by the seed that they are having, or the seed that they are procuring from the local market. So there are a lot of problems, but the major two problem is the availability and also the seed sustainability and seed quality also. And yeah, these are some ideas that we have been able to conduct either in South Sudan, in Niger, and other in Somalia also. We conduct some rapid seed system assessment that outline this point. Over to you.
Thanks a lot. So I think I will just take one and then we move to the next section. So Alex, would you like to share briefly some of the additional problems that you have experienced?
Hello. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm in Zimbabwe under Takunda, which is operating in the region, natural region 4 and 5 in Zimbabwe. This is the southern part of Africa. So the main seed security problem we have for the farmers here, especially the poor rural farmers, is access for certain type of seeds, especially groundnuts, whereby the seed is available with the seed companies, but the price is quite high, such that they do not have enough money to purchase the seed. So talking to the suppliers or seed houses, they would say, yes, we have the seed, but we can't see economic sense, because very few farmers would purchase the seed. So we have tried to, or we are trying to work around local seed production, supporting local seed production groups so that they can produce the seed. So that's it for the groundnut seed. Then the other challenge probably related to that is the use of retained seeds, which has stayed for more than 5 years or so, such that the seed would have lost its vigor and yield less when it is planted. And normally the quality is very poor or low. So that's the main challenge that the farmers are facing, especially the rural farmers. Thanks.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And thanks everyone for that rich discussion. I will pass it to Luis, and please feel free to add in to the chat area if you have any additional thoughts on that. Please, Luis, take us through seed systems basics.
Yeah, so I want to say I really learned from the discussion we just had. You know, it's not always clear cut, and it depends which aspect you're looking at on seed security. So very useful. Okay, so I'm going to just review quickly some seed system basics. And I mean really basics. We all know these things. I just want to make sure that, again, do we have an agreement, or are there things we want to discuss? So the first basic is that farmers use different seed systems. I'm sure you've seen variations of this diagram. There's a formal system, which is the orange channels, you know, government and commercial. This is modern varieties, often certified seed. There's an informal system. Look at the purple cylinders. Informal, traditional farmer system. which is usually farmers' own harvests, their social networks, the local markets. And then increasingly, there are these intermediary systems. Local seed businesses, community-based seed producers. The point is that all three of these systems can be important in normal times, but all three can also be important in emergency periods. So focus on all. Next. This is to emphasize that different crops, seed of different crops, might be sourced from different types of systems. This is just a theoretical example from Eastern Africa. So there, maize, you might have home saved, but if you look in Eastern Africa, you also, in Zimbabwe, like Alex, you also have farmers using the formal system, the seed companies, the agro-dealer shops for maize. But then you look at cassava, and cassava, generally, it's mostly home saved, or it could come from social networks. So you exchange planting material. It's pretty rare, but not totally unknown to see farmers get cassava from local markets. And then this is just a hypothetical example. You know, for beans, for common beans, local markets, you see 70% are very important. So the main message of this is that,
Hey, Louise.
yep, is it going in and out?
Yeah,
Yep.
you're very loud this moment, but just a second ago, you were perfect.
Okay, thank you. I'm shouting and I will not shout. So thank you. So basically what you see here is that different channels are important for different crops. Let's say the formal sector collapses in South Sudan, let's say, or Congo. There you expect maize to be affected, maize seed, but it might not affect cassava. So just, you know, all channels are important, but they're different for different crops. Abby, is my voice okay?
You were
Next.
fine. Yeah, you're okay.
Thanks, guys. Sorry. Thanks for the warning. Okay, here what you see is just a simple slide showing that seed channel use might change after disaster. So for instance, during normal times, home stocks could be important. After disaster, local markets could become more important. So think about dynamism when you talk about seed systems. They're not static at all. Next. Just to review the seed outlets, so we agree. You can go through these quickly, Ashton. Next, we have agro-dealers, which have few legumes, often. Next, you have local markets for seed. So not all grain can be sown, but there's some grain in markets, which is also good seed. And we discussed this on what is seed. So good, good seed in a local market might be adapted, the right variety, and fairly good quality. Next. Another source, of course, is farmers' own stocks. Traditional granaries might be plastic buckets. There are different ways that it could be stocked. Next. Seed producer groups. I saw that at the beginning, some of you are interested in seed producer groups. They can be really important as a seed source. Next. So basically, in this brief whiz overview, for seed systems, when we talk about them and we talk about assessing them, we have to acknowledge that formal, informal, and intermediary systems, they all matter. That seed channel use varies by crop. Poorer farmers might use different channels from wealthier farmers. You often see that wealthier farmers can afford agro-dealers, maybe poor farmers can't. Seed channel use can change after a disaster. And then simply, I hope we can agree in a group that one seed channel is not necessarily better than another. We really need all of them. So that's all I had to say on that. I did it quickly. Want to go back, Ashton? Anyone want to comment or add or debate? Do we share the same starting point?
I just wanted to make a note, but I would prefer to hear from Sadus first.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I would like to flag the work that NGO and also government are doing after a shock. So in the diagram, I didn't see it. I only see the local market and their own source the two type of sourcing of seed after the shock. So for me, when you look what is going on the ground, I think that it will be, maybe we can think of at least three sourcing for the farmer after a shock. That is a comment I want to do. I would like to hear more what the presenter is thinking. Over to you.
Well, I agree with you totally, Sadhu. I was just giving the example that after a shock, seed channels might.
Okay, that's good.
Governments are so important in emergencies, as are many other sources. Totally
Good.
agree. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was just going to.
Go ahead, Steve.
Sorry, go ahead, Kagan.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that I agree that it's important to see all of the different channels, but also it's not just about the seeds themselves. I think knowing how to choose the seeds is also important. Like you said when you showed the picture, like some of the seeds, some of the grain that you can find on the market is going to be adapted to the local context, whereas some of the seeds that you find in agro-dealers are not going to be adapted because they're not necessarily, the agro-dealer is not necessarily trained or doesn't really understand what he's selling. And so, yeah, it's not just the seeds themselves physically, but also everything that goes around it, which needs to be looked at when we looked at the channels that people use to get the seeds that they buy.
Absolutely, great comment. Steve, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say that I think there's like a seed versus variety thing that goes on, and sometimes we don't recognize it. And what I mean by that is that oftentimes organizations will say, that's not seed. And what they probably really mean is, that's not a new variety. And so where that sort of manifests itself is, you see a lot of organizations that'll simply call what farmers are accustomed to planting, they'll define it as, that's not seed. Seed is only something that comes from, A or B, but if it comes from channel C or D, that's not seed. And I think what's going on with that attempt to delegitimize or to define away something is confusion between seed as something that we plant to grow and like a new variety over.
Yeah, absolutely. And the difference in the seed security framework, there is a difference between seed quality, seed, and new varieties, and variety quality, variety suitability, and one is not more important than other. Both are incredibly important. The kinds of discussions we're having now, which are just the beginning, we'll be having throughout this learning period. So keep in mind your questions. Remember the Google Doc at the end. recommendations you want to make, things you want to see more of, things you want to disagree with. We're here to have a real discussion because this isn't easy. Okay, next. There's just one other thing we want to do today, and it's something that's often overlooked. And I hope this isn't too provocative, and I hope we're all thinking, but there are different goals that seed aid work can accomplish, can aim for, depending on how it's designed. Next. You know, often you think, okay, the goal of my program is to just get seed to farmers. But in reality, the type of seed you deliver or you help them access, the partners you work with, the awareness raising campaigns, they're all different according to what your goal is, even if the goal isn't stated. And very often the goals aren't stated. So at a minimum, we've noticed that there are at least 4 goals really different in the way that seed aid can be designed and implemented. You might go for just generic food security. You might have a goal that in this aid program, I really have to go for nutrition. You know, it's an undernourished group. You might say, I'm in Southern Africa. I have a lot of drought. I have to go for climate resilience in the seed aid work. Or you might say, I have to go for income generation. So for instance, often people who work with IDPs, internally displaced people, say, well, the most important thing is to get income to these people. There might be other goals. I hope we're all thinking next. And this is just an example of how the different goals shape your seed aid. You know, whether you do a fair or you do DSD, direct seed distribution, or you do cash, your goal will shape the way you think about it. So for instance, if you are interested mainly in food security, you often go for major staple crops. You might also do sometimes crops or varieties that are responsive to inputs if you're really going to increase food production. If you're going for a nutrition goal, you know, even though you don't state it all the time, you might look at varieties that are biofortified. I'm just reading the chart. You might look at crops that contribute to dietary diversity, so get a greater range of crops in your aid approach. You might go for specialty crops like leafy vegetables or orange flesh sweet potatoes. If you're going for climate resilience, which is increasingly important in emergency, and I think we need to think about this a great deal more, you might go for crops that tolerate stresses, heat tolerant, water efficient crops. You might go for crops that add diversity to the resource base, like legumes that fix nitrogen, fodder crops. Finally, income generation. Here, very clearly, the seed aid approach is crops that are geared to markets, high value crops, crops that are linked to value chains like soybean. So you give farmers soybeans so they can process it into oil and make money. So there are many other issues, but for us, this is just a snapshot to say that your goal will shape pretty much every single step of your seed aid implementation, where you get the seed, who you work with, which messages you give to farmers. It's incredibly important and it's rarely talked about. Next. So what we wanted to do here is for you to think about in your organization which kind of goals you normally go to, you aim for. And we have a Google sheet. And what we'd like you to do is you're going to show the Google sheet, Ashton, or you go to the Google sheet and find a row. Like under Abby, I would put Louise or Steve or whoever, Sadhu, your organization, and then just put an X on which programs your organization normally aims for. Is it one goal? Is it all 4 goals? You know, where are we as a group? So then we can start to discuss then the design elements. So is that clear? Abby, do you want to add, or Ashton, is the Google Doc in the chat?
It is, and people are adding in, and just jump down to an open row. It might be that you see yourself typing over a colleague, so just jump down to another one. But yeah, I see 4 people typing in now, others joining. So just scroll down. It's on page 7, but you can use that table of contents to jump down quickly.
Remember, there are no right answers here. It's what we normally do when we implement in our respective organizations.
And Louise, you can see Ashton's gone ahead and shared the screen, so you can see people writing in as they go.
Okay, so looking at this, even if you're not totally done, but please do, and I don't know if we can make the screen even a bit bigger. I'm surprised, and maybe other people comment, but it looks like as a group, we're very aware of the different goals. You know, normally when I see seed aid proposals, almost all of them are on food security, but it looks like as a group, we're fairly forward looking. We're doing a lot of climate resilience, a lot of nutrition, a lot of income generation. We're juggling a lot of decisions. I'm surprised, but very pleasantly surprised. Does anyone else want to comment on this table or on what your organization is doing? We have about 2 minutes before we have to start to wrap up and talk about the next session. But I think this is really important. Wow, women's economic empowerment. What else are we going for?
I'll just say that a lot of partners talk a good game, but if you dig deep as to what extent the seed aid actually addresses this, goal, whether it's climate resilience, I think things kind of fall apart pretty quickly. Unfortunately, in my view, as a USAID person that looks at a lot of applications.
Steve, that might be, if you go to the Google document, one of the recommendations of this group. I don't know, I'm just giving you an example, that if you go towards a certain goal, define the features to reach that goal. I mean, that's the kind of thing we want to move all of us together toward, is doing better work to our specific aims. Does anyone else want to comment on this table? I find it very important, very important. Okay, I hate moving on from here, but I think we need to. We will come back to this. Absolutely, we'll come back to this. Okay, just we're at the end of wrapping up here and talking about the next session. We have about 5 more minutes. I hope that's okay with you guys. So basically, just to emphasize, on the right, a new seed emergency response tool has come out, which specifically looks at some of the design features and the goals. It goes beyond that, but this might be of use to you. It came out, I think, in June. On the left, a new resource came out on conflict-affected areas. Throughout this, these just happen to be Mercy Corps ISSD. Throughout the course, we're going to share scores of resources. Please add your own at different points. Lots is happening. Next. We then want to highlight that this is an evolving discussion. Use the Google Doc that Abby showed to you, and I think it's in the chat right now, or Ashton showed, related to what we discussed today, even if it was really fast. What kinds of future needs do you have? More training, more documents, more field exercises. What do you need? And do you have any recommendations to improve practices? Just use the Google Doc because it's for all of us as a group. Next. I see there's something in the chat. Are we okay? Everybody okay? Okay. So what happened today? It was a very, very big session. Basically, what is the summary of session 1 today? First, we met each other. We learned about the rationale, you know, why this group is happening. And then we explored 4 really basic concepts to seed aid practice, to seed system practice. What is seed? What is the seed security framework? What seed systems are we talking about? And then the goals of seed aid work. Okay, just the basics. It was a very, very big agenda. And I think what we learned today also is what different experiences we have. In the next session, which is a week from today, same time, same place, that session will 100% focus on seed system assessment, just so you know. And so different from this session, but moving forward, to prepare for that, we'd like you to be familiar with what a seed system assessment report looks like. You can choose, you can find them on, I think, are the places Abby's going to send you. You can look on seed system. You can go to any of the FAO reports, which have been shared. We'll give you the link. S34D has very kindly shared their reports. Maybe you as an organization have a report. Whatever, look, any report, read it, read part of it, choose one big thing that you learned, and, you know, prepare a feedback. When I say feedback, 30, 40 seconds, you know, what did this report teach you? What did you learn? What did you like? What you didn't like? The task is to start reading and be familiar with actual reports. Next. Okay, I've already said next week is seed system assessment. The week after, so you know, is pitfalls, the really hard things that we're dealing with. So think about pitfalls you have. Just, you know, the session 4 is going to be about your plans. So let's think forward. Next. That is it.
Louise, I am putting up the polls right now. So just before everyone hops off, we just ask you to fill out these polls quickly so we get a sense of how the speed of our facilitation was and the tools that you found useful in helping your learning experience today. So if you could just take 2 seconds, and then after that, you can hop off, go about your day, and expect an email from me shortly with the assignment that Luis explained, as well as the materials from today. Thanks so much, everyone, for your great participation. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. See you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Great work. Just outstanding. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve. All right, hooray, we did it.
Great job. That was awesome.
Luis, Wilfred, are you guys still here?
Of course, we would never leave you alone.
Hey, kudos. And just to, I can just share quickly our poll results. If you can see my screen?
Yep,
Yeah,
we can see.
Yeah.
So it seems like the pace was just perfect. Well done. The presentations and slide were good. Breakout groups, people really liked the breakout groups. Let's keep that in mind for next week. Zoom chat box, not many people felt like that was too helpful. And then the Google Doc, more than half. So at least most, yeah, it doesn't seem too bad, which is good. Yeah, cool.
So I wanted to, I think everybody really, what a great group, but I think also you guys technically really flowed well. I have a problem with the microphone, so I watch it now all the time, just so you know, but thank you for telling me if it's too loud or too soft. I just have a microphone that has a voice of her own. So she goes up and down. I can't change it right now, but I do recognize the problem. So thanks, thanks to everyone. Yeah, I do recognize it. Okay, kudos everybody. I think Wilfred and I now have a session. Anything, Ashton, you want to say? Did we make your life hard?